listening to Passages. I'm Drew, and I got Jason and Tim with me as usual. It's really good to be back together tonight for another episode.
Hey, I'm just glad to be back in the country tonight with you guys.
That's right. It was a little difficult last week.
The Zoom, I have to admit, I have not had a chance to listen to it, and I have a feeling it was a bit choppy with the Zoom because there seemed like there was a delay, at least from my end.
There was a little bit of a delay. Most of it, the only problem really was you were almost taking a nap during the
I was a little
broadcast.
sleepy. Yeah, it was the end of the day, and but we did take the show international. I mean, that's
right.
We
did.
that's a big step for this
check
show.
mark for that on the
First.
checklist of items that we've done on the podcast.
What's next, guys?
New soundboard.
And we got a new soundboard. Hey, and coming soon, headphones.
Right.
Right now, Drew's the only cool cat in the building with
I'm the only one
headphones.
with headphones tonight.
So we're excited to see if this sounds different, better, we hope.
We'd like to hear your feedback. Tell us, if you listen to it, all five of you, if you listen to it, let us know what you think. We're hoping this kind of takes care of some of the sound quality issues we've had with previous episodes.
Yeah, we've been using some equipment that had previously been used by the dinosaurs. So,
Yes.
we're glad to get into the 21st century here and get it started. So let's get into this thing.
Well, guys, I don't have a news article or anything. I have something I've picked up through the rumor mill first, and then a little story about an experience I had last night at a restaurant. But I'd like to call this food news. This segment is food news.
All right.
Maybe we'll change that title. I don't really know, but that's what I'm going with tonight.
We've had a lot of fast food news, but now we're going sort of maybe a sit-down restaurant.
Well, we've got
here.
a little fast food and a little sit-down. So I
Okay.
want to start by telling my story from last night. So I have been in Peru I was in Peru for 9 days, roughly, with the travel, and got back Monday, busy day at work, came home. We had a nice meal at home. Tuesday, I had a meeting. On the way home, I thought, this is the perfect chance for the Baconator.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, 7:30. I pull up to Wendy's, expecting the Baconator. And I pull up to the little drive-through speaker, which the lights are off, so you don't know if they're open or closed, but I'm hoping.
But that's a typical thing.
That's a typical
right?
thing at Wendy's. So I'm hoping we're open.
At this Wendy's.
And then I start reading the piece of paper taped to the speaker box. We are sorry to inform you, but we are out of, and a list of about 30 things.
And on that list?
Well, I didn't really take time to read the list
Okay.
because I figure if I order and they don't have it, they'll tell me. So I get up, she comes over, excuse me, sir, what would you like to have? And I said, well, I would like a Baconator, number 2 double Baconator with medium fries, because if you're getting the Baconator, you don't need to go heavy on the fries.
You're right.
It's okay. You're there for the Baconator.
Responsible.
You're
Very responsible.
Watching your figure.
I want a Diet Dr. Pepper. And then she said it. Sir, we're out of bacon. And I said, well, I don't want the Anator. And she did not find that very funny. I thought it was genius.
That is.
And I said, well, can you make a Baconator without the bacon and let me just have everything else that goes on it? Well, sir, we can do that, but we're also out of Diet Dr. Pepper. And I said, that's fine. I'll have Diet Coke. Oh, we're out of Diet Coke. And I said, can I have a Sprite? We're out of Sprite. And I just said, it appears I've picked a bad night. Number one, I've craved the Baconator since I returned from Peru. And you've already broke my heart and told me I can't have that. And now I can't get a diet soda nor a Sprite, which is the backup if you can't get
Did you have
diet
this full
sodas.
conversation with the lady on the microphone?
Pretty much. I stayed
awesome.
there for a while. And finally, I just said, ma'am, I think I'm just going to have to try back another night. So I'm planning Thursday, maybe Thursday night, I'm getting the Baconator. I hope to update you and give you some good news on
Well, it wasn't
next
like
Wednesday.
she had anything else to do. There was no food to cook, so
Did you
might
suggest
as
that
well have a
maybe she
conversation.
should replace that sign with a sign that had what they have.
It would have been easier, really.
Small
And
sign.
I didn't even ask for a potato. I didn't see the
Oh,
list,
you
but
know,
I know
you
if
know
they're
the
out of
potato,
bacon,
the potato
there
was the
is
first thing that was
there's
gone.
No,
No,
and I'm sorry, I don't eat the chilies at Wendy's because
The
I
lo-
like to live.
the
and I
lovely
was
Millie
afraid it would take
Layton
me
will,
out. Yeah.
lovely Millie will ask me for a baked potato at Wendy's, and I say so. And then what do you want me to do when they don't have a
it.
baked
Yeah,
potato?
you got to have
What's
a
the
backup plan.
backup?
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to say the snarky side of me really wanted to say, could you just run 100 yards to Publix back here and get some bacon? I'll wait. I have had my heart set on this since Will's touchdown in Atlanta on Sunday at noon. But no, it was not meant to be. So that was the first story, and that was just a little personal story of tragedy in my life this week. The second one, Tim, I'm afraid this is going to really hurt you in the heart. I heard through the patient mill this week, and the rumor mill of patients talking, that we're losing Guadalajara.
We're losing it. This is the real battle of the bridge.
Okay, so all I've heard is that we're losing Guadalajara and Leeds, which has been here since at least was that a Shoney's?
It was
went
a
out of
Shon-
business.
Now there were a couple of things that were there after Shoney's.
Okay, so that predated me.
There was a seafood restaurant that was there for a minute, but Guadalajara has been there most of the time, if not all the time, that I've lived in Leeds.
So you're saying it's a battle of the bridge,
right? So
Is it moving across the street?
Yeah.
Across the interstate?
I first learned of this on Millie sent me. She sent me like a clip of what's happening in Leeds, and it said something to the effect like Guadalajara is closing, and I almost just had a meltdown because Guadalajara is okay. If we were rating Mexican restaurants in Leeds, my esteemed colleagues would rate Guadalajara down the line,
16.
but
Third
Guadalajara,
about
or
16.
third or fourth,
But
out of 7.
Guadalajara is one of the most fantastic restaurants that God ever placed on this earth.
Tim, they don't even know your name.
Oh, they know my name.
They call you Stan.
That's true. And we might as well go.
And we call them the squat and holler. So
Yes.
We might as well talk about that for a
aptly
minute.
named.
I mean, it's you've mentioned it, so the story must be told.
It has to be.
I think I may yield my story for this evening, and we'll just combine.
Well,
this
we're seeing
into
the
mine.
end of an era in Leeds.
All right, so there was, in fact, before they closed at the end of March, in this location. I'll get to that in a second. So, Jason and I and our families spent many a Wednesday night before church at Guadalajara, most of which were bad decisions.
Because then
Extremely bad decisions for Jason.
Then I would spend most of the Wednesday night service in the facilities here.
Right.
And I don't mean the auditorium or
Exactly.
the classroom. I mean the ones that have the porcelain throne.
Right.
plumbing.
And so, and when I was actually at the Neighbor of Guadalajara on Sunday, when I ordered, in honor of Jason Pullum, queso fundido.
Oh, I love the queso
which is the
fundido.
Jason Pullum staple at Guadalajara.
Oh, it is a spectacular greasy meal.
All right, so
It will kill you.
So why do they call me Stan at Guadalajara? So there was a guy that ran Guadalajara for a long time named Freddie.
Freddie,
Super nice guy. Just supremely nice. Would always come by and talk to both of our families. Knew us all by name. Super nice. And he worked there for many years. And I think he started working maybe different schedule or whatever. And there's another guy that runs it now, and I don't know his name. And
he doesn't
he
know
doesn't
yours.
know mine. So, but he thinks he knows mine.
Yes.
And so he is equally kind and just a super guy, always takes care of me, gives me like 2 bags of chips. When I call up and make a takeout order, he says, "Hey, Stan, it'll be 15 minutes. And he recognizes my voice, and he always has my stuff ready to go and something a little extra in the bag. And because he's just super
because
nice.
he's going to take care of Stan.
Because he's taking care of Stan. Now, every time I go in there and pay, I hand him a debit card that says John T. Layton on it. And I don't know.
That was my first question.
So I don't know what he thinks that. So I've always been deathly afraid. So Freddie knew me as Tim and Millie and Jonathan. And so this other guy, who I should know his name, but I just don't, who's been so nice to me for years, confused me at some point with a guy named Stan. And thought
you didn't correct him right away.
And I felt so bad.
And now
because
you're stuck
I
with
felt so
Stan.
bad because he's so nice. And
Right.
I have been living a lie at the Quad.
And the longer you do it,
It's like,
At
what
this
can I
point,
do now?
you really can't- you can't correct
with
What
it.
I've always been afraid of is that the paths of Freddie and this guy cross, and one of them calls me Stan, and one of them calls me Tim in the presence of each other, and
and
then
worlds collide.
and then I have to come clean.
Yeah.
All right, so I went the other night.
Well, I'm not shocked.
You shouldn't be, but I hadn't been in a while, and
I'm
so
shocked that you're still alive.
I went halfway to get
been
the
there that many times.
And that you still have your full colon.
chicken fajita nachos, no jalapenos, which are delightful. And
How do you go no jalapenos? That seems like a foul.
well,
Maybe the jalapenos are my
I
problem.
wanted to sleep that night.
Yeah.
Was the real reason. So I went in and I said, "Hey, I hear that y'all are moving." And he said, "Yes." He said, "We don't really fill this place up like we used to anymore." And he said, and sort of the rent has continually increased, and so they're moving to Moody. So that little shopping center next to CVS,
The old CVS
right,
building.
has the Snap Fitness in
Yep.
it and
Yep. There's
Hometown
a-
Family
yep,
Medicine.
Yep. Know exactly what you're talking about.
There was a Chinese restaurant in there, and they're moving into that spot.
Okay,
They're
that's where the Golden Gate 2 was.
There we go. And so they're building there, and so they're going to go out. They're leaving at the end of March. So I really think next Wednesday night we should consider one for the road.
I think I would be in on that. Now, that means whoever our guest speaker is Wednesday night, I
will
will not get
see
to hear
you,
his
Jason.
lesson.
That's right.
But I would go for their chicken queso
But-
fundido one more time.
Thanks to technology, you can take your phone in and listen to the live stream.
That's a great idea. I just need to plan ahead and maybe wear diapers that night.
So, all right. So Guad lives.
Okay.
But I mentioned, and so to our listeners that are not, not associated with this area, they have the Battle of the Bridge every year, which is the football game between Leeds High School and Moody High School, because we're only divided by the bridge that is over
The
I-20.
Yep.
And so that's why I said we're losing the Battle of the Bridge because Guad is going to Moody.
No, actually, Tim, we've won the Battle of the Bridge the last 2 years. They may
Oh.
be stealing Guad, but we own the bridge. Go Green Wave.
RGR.
the actual Battle of the Bridge.
The Battle of the Bridge.
football game.
Yeah.
But we're losing Guad, which, when I first moved here, Guad was really the only Mexican restaurant to go to. And now there are at least 5 in Leeds city
Getting
limits.
out of hand.
Yeah.
So
It
I
is
can see why
a little
they would
crazy.
move. I would think competition has really eaten into their. I mean, they're just down the door from what's the big
Mangoes is next
Mangoes?
door.
Yeah,
Right? They're 3 or 4 doors down from El Caz.
Yep.
Cross the bridge from another
La
right
Ponchos. There's 2.
La Juanitas.
Yeah, and then there's Guero down with 78 now. I think that's the name of it.
That's
Guero.
right. And one right around the corner from them that's like very authentic, right?
Yeah.
La Juanitas.
La Juanitas, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Very
right.
interesting information for our non-local listeners.
That's right.
That's
just
what they
means,
tune in for.
means you just need to take a trip to Leeds, Alabama.
Good
And
old Leeds, Alabama.
You can hit up Bucky's while you're here, Barber Motorsports, Bass Pro Shop. You can even take a swim in their tank. They'll arrest you and drag you out, but you can.
And quickly, you can eat at an Old Shoney's, which is the Guad.
Now, the question is, what's coming to the old Shoney's?
I'm wondering, will something
Wrecking
else?
ball.
I think that
think
may be
you're
it.
right.
I think that's my
It's
guess.
time.
I think, you know what's going to happen?
Building
That's a good piece of
can't
real
be.
estate right
Chick-fil-A
there, right?
is
Yeah.
about
I
to
mean,
have a bigger parking lot.
They need it. Every Chick-fil-A needs a
It's a
bigger parking lot.
possibility.
Yeah.
They are adjacent.
If they're going to add a restaurant, what restaurant would you want them to add?
Oh, that's a good one.
You open a can of worms there.
Got to think about
I don't
that.
know. That's
You know what we could use?
gonna take some homework.
Good Mexican restaurant.
That's right.
All right.
All
Over
right,
to you, Drew.
Next, now for a segment we call Rock News.
Rock News.
All right, so in Rock News this week, I wanted to share with you an article that my father shared with me from the AARP periodical. So, Tim, you've probably already read this.
That's just not right.
I'm sorry, I
Not
couldn't
right,
resist.
but it is true.
So my dad, my, sorry about that.
You have shut Tim down for the rest of the evening.
My dad. Well, let me start here. My mom has Alzheimer's disease, and twice a week she goes to this place called Caring Place, and she stays there about 4 hours. It gives my dad a chance to run errands and do some other things. So Dad has started going and playing the guitar, and performing, singing songs, and they really enjoy it. And he got
At
the
the Caring Place.
at the Caring Place.
Okay,
Cool.
that's cool.
No, he doesn't go like.
Well, I didn't know if there's a lot of studios up there in the area.
He takes mom to the Caring Place, and he goes to the bar.
Well, I'm
and does
thinking,
a set.
is he joining
Goes
a joining a studio band up
Goes
there? or
over to
something?
Muscle Shoals
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Gonna hang out
He's
with the
Skinner's
Swampers.
new guitar player. No, he does.
I
a
was just
one-man show
asking
over
for
at the Caring Place.
clarification.
And he told me he got the idea from this article. And the article's all about music therapy and how it works, especially on the brain. So I found it pretty interesting. And I was going to just share a few things from it. The article is entitled "The Extraordinary World of Music," and it's all about the development of music therapy. It's been going on about 50 years, and it says it has harnessed this extraordinary aspect of music to treat diseases ranging from depression to chronic pain to movement disorders to autism to Alzheimer's disease. But only in recent years has the scientific community begun to penetrate the mystery of how something as ephemeral as an acoustic signal, mere air vibrations, can have such profound effects on damaged bodies and brains. It's a really long article, so I just picked a few excerpts to read about how it actually works. I found that fascinating. It says here, recent scientific studies have shown that music's power over us is not purely psychological, but based in measurable physiological changes. Singing along with others to a beloved song causes the brain to secrete the chemical oxytocin, a naturally occurring hormone that creates the warm sensations of bonding, unity, and security that make us feel all cuddly toward our children and others we love, infuses us with feelings of spiritual awe, and can alleviate chronic pain or the debilitating sensations of anxiety or the isolation of autism. So I honed in on that part that said that chemical, the release of that chemical can create sensations of spiritual awe. And I thought about how important music is in church, and singing is a part of our worship. And, you know, there's a physiological explanation to that, which I found that very interesting. One area of medicine where the power of music has been particularly remarkable is in the treatment of the dementias, including Alzheimer's disease, whose stubborn and terrible symptoms have been resistant to most forms of treatment. I'm skipping so much here, but I wanted to get to how this works. So, you know, in Alzheimer's in particular, you lose memory. And it explains how this might help with that. All memories, regardless of how vivid and indelible they seem to us, are electric and chemical signals in our brains that travel through a network of neurons. So what music does is it gives your brain a full brain workout. It works on the brainstem, the motor centers, the language centers, the auditory cortex, the emotion centers, and the visual systems, where you picture something in your mind that maybe you've associated with the music. And it's this full brain workout that hints at why melodies and lyrics, particularly from songs that have personal significance to us, have such a peculiar sticking power in our memories. And they were talking about how scans have revealed that the autobiographically salient music is written into many parts of the brain. The movement center, for instance, not touched by Alzheimer's until the very last stages. Music, by stimulating these preserved parts of the memory network, seems to reach into those areas of the neocortex, the brain's wrinkled outer layer, to find those neurons that have not yet died off, thus triggering memories thought to be lost forever. And I know this is getting long. So what I found interesting is that new music helps a little bit, but new music only triggers the auditory area of the brain. But if you play music that the patient has known from childhood, for example, or some song they're really familiar with, let's just say like Rocket Man by Elton John for Tim.
That's right.
It will work the entire brain. And it has a therapeutic value that shows practical results. I mean, it's not really reversing the damage that's been done, but the white matter of the brain does increase. So when you lose a neuron, you don't get it back. But the white matter that helps the neurons communicate with each other increases with the playing of music, specifically familiar music. And this article ends saying, after 4 weeks of listening to their favorite music daily, patients' brains had a greater density of white matter. If you have increase in white matter density or volume in a certain area of the brain, that means there's more highways active between the neurons. That's more traffic. So they're starting to find out that music therapy is helping patients more so, this article claims, than medicine or any other therapies.
That's amazing.
So get those old records out, play those old songs, get people singing along. It helps your brain.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because, you know, if you're riding along in the car and a certain song comes on, it can trigger memories from where you were, what you were doing. I mean, I've got songs that when I hear them, I think back to my childhood and sitting around a record player at my grandparents' house listening to music. And it's an amazing thing how just that sound triggers something that I haven't thought about in years. And so it makes sense that it would be beneficial for those that have some type of dementia or
But it
impairment.
has to be
Old
music,
stuff.
Yeah,
It
has
can't
to be
be
music
new.
that's been imprinted on your memory
Right.
for a long time. That's what involves the full brain workout. New music will help a little bit, but only like a certain part of the brain.
But if
That,
you
I
go
found that
back
very
to,
interesting.
Yeah, if you go back to the genres that they listened to, you know, in the 50s and 60s and they grew up with, it makes sense that that would trigger a lot more deeper emotion, deeper memories and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure all of us have, it's amazing how much music sticks in your mind. You know, when you're listening to something that maybe you haven't heard in a long time, and you pick those lyrics right back up, and you're singing with the radio or whatever. It's you know, there's a lot of things you might not be able to remember, but music just, it has a link with the ability to be remembered. You know, of course, in this building, we do all these songs that we do with the kids that, you know, the grown-ups, you know, can come back and do because we've set some Bible stuff to music. You know, we do a song that is the Judges, and all it is the list of judges set to music. Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, Deborah, Gideon, Abimelech, Tola, Jair, Jephthah, Ibzan, Elon, Abdon, Samson, Eli, Samuel. Why is that easier to remember when you sing it than it is when you just say it?
Yeah.
There's something there.
That's how most of us memorize the books of the Bible, the books of the New Testament, the fruit of the Spirit, all those VBS songs. And that's another application of this. The music forms those strong neural pathways, which is not just, like the article said, psychological, but it's physiological. It's the brain is actually changing as you listen to this music.
Well, and I would think too, music has such a calming effect. And I've had family that's gone through dementia and Alzheimer's. I saw it with my grandparents or my grandmother and her sister especially. And so much of the frustration with Alzheimer's, if you're the individual with it, is you can't express what you want to express. Things just, things are not right. And sometimes just that calming aspect. I mean, I keep a pair of headphones in my pocket at all times, and it's not like today. I ran to the grocery store. I didn't listen to the chaos in the grocery store. I put on my headphones and listened to some nice calming music as I walked around. And even though I was at our local place, that big box store that drives me insane, I was absolutely relaxed.
Well, Jason, in the grocery stores, they play music.
But they play...
The Girl from Ipanema.
Well,
that's
look,
one.
They're playing stuff. You just said that modern music... that recent music is not good for you. So I put on mine and play great music instead of listening to some of the new stuff like Taylor Swift that's awful.
Let me segue, since you said great music. I want to let y'all know something. We're in the rock news segment. Just to set you at ease, Neil Young is coming back to Spotify.
I read that today.
I've been to Hollywood. I've been to Redwood. I've been a miner for a heart of gold.
I am not really sure that my Spotify playlists are going to expand
Is
at
it not
all.
going to change at all? I just hope Neil Young will remember Southern Man don't need him around anyhow.
Hey, so do you remember why he jumped off Spotify?
No,
I
don't
Joe
remember.
Rogan podcast was questioning vaccines. And he called it disinformation or misinformation, whatever that means.
And the Joe Rogan podcast is a Spotify podcast, I'm assuming.
Right. Exclusive Spotify podcast. And I think Mr. Young thought he was bigger than Joe Rogan. I don't know what he thought, but he boycotted Spotify. This was 2 years ago. Nobody noticed.
Well, 10 people were probably like, what happened to Neil Young?
Right.
Maybe 10.
I say this, I'm a Neil Young fan.
I'm not a big Neil Young fan.
I like 70s Neil Young. I like it. But this move was kind of a doofus move.
And he's like, I'm back.
Now he's come back, so it meant nothing.
You're right. It's the worst kind of scenario. I'm back. You left?
Yeah.
Yeah. that's the hard
And on
part.
top of that, it did nothing for the Joe Rogan show. It wasn't even a blip on their radar.
He says he indicated on Tuesday it was a result of exclusivity expiring on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. The source of the previous dispute, meaning the show will stream on rivals such as Apple and Amazon. Quote, I cannot just leave Apple and Amazon like I did Spotify because my music would have very little streaming outlet to music lovers at all. Well, yeah. I mean, you're a musician. You're not a politician, a lawmaker, or even a podcaster. Just play the guitar and stay out of our lives!
I bet
Just play your guitar!
and sing.
Sing the song, monkey!
This is my frustration with the whole musician thing in politics. The whole whoever Taylor Swift gets behind is going to win thing.
I want to say to these guys, I want to like you.
But you're making
I'm
it
trying to
hard.
like you.
Well, how hard did he have to come up with some scenario to come back other than just say, hey, you remember that whole thing?
I was wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to come off all the other streaming services.
Or even if he doesn't want to say, I was wrong. Remember that whole thing? Never mind.
Yeah.
My music's back, but no, it's got to be, Rogan no longer has exclusivity with Spotify and he's going everywhere. Well, I can't leave everywhere. Well, you could. And, anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, he showed us by leaving though. It totally affected my listening to Spotify music.
Right.
It really tore me
I
apart.
went and got 17 vaccines the moment I heard.
Sadly, most of the musicians I really like have passed on, so they can't leave. I just hope their
Well, have you
music
seen
stays.
Neil Young lately?
He may
Looks
have,
like he may have already passed
Does
on.
he still have the chops? You know,
Oh,
last
yeah,
time I saw him,
yeah.
he had some sweet chops on the
Yeah.
sides. Yeah. Man.
Well,
All right.
is that it for you? You're gonna
I'm going to
Why don't you-
defer.
come
Jump.
No, should I go ahead?
You should jump in.
All
do your
right.
thing.
All right.
We're here all night.
Okay, so here
We got a
is,
new soundboard. Let's give this thing a run for its money.
So my story is comes from HuffPost.com and is entitled "Nebraska Woman Accused of Pump Glitch to Get $27,000 Worth of Gas." Dawn Thompson, 45, allegedly pumped an estimated 7,413 gallons of gas at a pump and pantry store over a 6-month period. Okay, so here's how she did it. A woman in Lincoln, Nebraska is facing a felony theft charge after she allegedly took advantage of a gas pump glitch to get more than $27,000 of free fuel. Dawn Thompson was arrested on March 6th. This is a relatively new story. Charged with one count of theft by unlawful taking of $5,000 or more. Okay, so this happened over a 6-month period. I did the math today, and I think she stole an average over 6 months of 42 gallons of gas a day. All right.
Where was she putting it?
I think she was putting it in her car and friends' cars. Thompson was allegedly able to access the free fuel because of a glitch that arose after the gas station changed the order in which customers swiped their payment and reward cards. Okay, so the glitch allowed people to use their reward card instead of a debit or credit card. Thompson allegedly figured out that when a rewards card was swiped twice, probably by accident, the pump switched into a demo mode that allowed the customer to get free gas. And it says...
And she's getting penalized for this.
Well, she did it for 6 months at a clip of 42 gallons
sounds
a day.
like
But at what
the
point is
fault
the gas
lay with
station
the gas
liable?
station.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we talk about
Now-
personal responsibility on this
All right,
podcast.
now listen to this part. Police said Thompson, so it says that she discovered the glitch, but listen to this part. Police said Thompson first received the rewards card she used from a man who needed to pay off a car debt. All right, I don't know about rewards cards that much, but I think they hand you one, right? And say,
would
scan
think so.
it when you buy gas here, and your 100th gallon of gas is free or something.
You build
know?
1 penny for every
Right.
$100
Something
you
like
spend.
that, right? So it says, according to police, the man cannot be contacted because now he's deceased.
Oops.
So Thompson didn't just get free gas for herself, we would think, unless she drives a big rig, right? And investigators allege police said another woman told them she paid Thompson between $500 and $700 for, quote, discounted fuel. And so the woman also told police that Thompson sold the rewards card in June 2023, right around the time the glitch was fixed.
Brilliant. So she's being punished for being an entrepreneur.
She
Yeah, she. What do you figure that she just hung around the gas station all day? Psst, hey, come here.
At some point,
How much you gonna put in there? $50 worth? Give me a 20.
I got you.
at
Give
some
me a
point,
20.
the gas station's got to think, why is this lady here every day?
Right.
Because you said about 40 gallons of gas a day.
40 gallons
That's
of
a lot
gas
of
a day,
gas.
right? So, well, maybe she comes by every day, puts a drop or two in hers. So, her friends come by.
She's got a lot of time.
Wow.
Now
A lot of time
I
on
can
her hands.
see where she probably, after 5 or 6 days of this, should have gone in and said, guys, your pumps are acting weird. I'm not getting charged. So I give her a little bit of responsibility on that. But the gas station, at some point, they've got to say, wow, our money is short every
Isn't
month.
there
We've
some
got
balancing
a couple thousand
process,
of
right?
gallons
Yeah.
off from our money. Let's look at the cameras and figure this out.
Did Nintendo come after you when you were playing Contra and you did A, B, up, down, start, select, whatever the code was to
No.
get into the
And I'm not
special
suggesting that
levels and
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm also not suggesting that any of you that have reward cards out there go swipe and see what happens. But it worked for her right until it didn't work
Well,
for her.
I'm just hoping that the local gas station here doesn't reach out and contact me, because I heard my son, oldest one, took the gas hose home with him the other day.
Oh.
Still attached to the vehicle.
I've seen that move before. It's a breakaway, right?
It's a
There's
breakaway.
Yeah,
so it
there
didn't-
wasn't
yeah,
gas.
yeah. I think
all
he
over the-
figured it out as it was flopping down the road, maybe next to him. But I'm hoping that they.
Did he ever bring it back?
I think he took it back and talked to him and gave him. I think he did give him his phone number and stuff. And
I haven't seen the hose. I've seen the nozzle.
no, this was. He said the
this
hose
is a new one.
because it breaks off up near the top. So
which
fantastic.
local service station was it?
I believe it was the Valero near my house.
Oh, the old
yeah.
Valero.
And this is why we were out of town, so they're home by themselves, and we didn't find out
Oh,
about
yeah.
this until we got home, of course, because why would your kids tell you anything that weird has happened while you're gone? But
That's great.
Hey, anything happened while we were gone? Well,
I
Fun-
can just see him bringing it back and just
Hey.
it's rolled up in a roll, and he just goes up to the counter and slams it down.
he's like, this thing fell off.
funny story.
Here's your hose back.
So did her stealing the gas make the gas prices go up or down? I mean, I know we are not experiencing inflation. That has been made clear
Everything
to
is
us.
good.
It's good. There's no elevation in any prices, but I would think the law of supply and demand says that place was particularly elevated in price.
I believe they were suffering what the president referred to as shrinkflation.
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 Better than
That
stagflation.
is when you have fewer potato chips in the bag than you used to have
Guys,
in the past.
We said, from the beginning that we weren't going to do politics. This is going to be so hard.
We're not doing
I wanted
politics. We're
You take a
quoting.
Snickers bar, and there's not as much Snick in the Snickers bar. That's the State of the Union.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it. That was this week, right?
Yeah,
I missed
was.
it. Yeah, I missed that. I have
but
to.
we're
admit.
we're not here to talk about
No, and neither was he. That's what I heard.
that. Well, don't know where he is. All right, we'll be back in a little while. We're gonna reset ourselves and get back on focus, and we'll be back with a passage. All right, we are back with tonight's passage. Tonight's passage is a submission from listener Bradley Cobb. And Bradley, thanks for the quotation. The passage is attributed to James A. Garfield, 20th President of the United States. And I'll read the quote, and then I'll tell a little bit about what I know about Garfield. Maybe you guys can add in on that. He says, "I mean to make myself a man, and if I succeed in that, I shall succeed in everything." So James Garfield, 20th President of the United States, also a member of the church, which is really interesting. I went to Mooresville, Alabama one time, right outside of Huntsville, and they've got a lot of old buildings there, and they have an old Church of Christ. And I went there, and I was able to get in that day. It was supposed to be locked, but the door had not been pulled to all the way, so I was able to get in.
Sounds like the front door of our church building
Yeah,
half
it's like
the time.
if you come to our church building.
I mean, that never happens
Forget
here.
what Jason just said, please.
But I went in there, and at the pulpit there was a plaque, and it said that E.A. Elam, David Lipscomb, Alexander Campbell, and James Garfield had all preached from that pulpit. Garfield had preached there during the Civil War when his troops were camped somewhere around in that area, and on Sunday morning he got up, went in, and preached that morning at the Sunday services. He was a Union general, I believe, during the Civil War, and sadly assassinated in 1881. And Jason, you looked it up. He was shot.
He was shot on July 2nd, 1881, and did not succumb to the injury until September 19th of 81. due to sepsis and infection. They said that it would be 14 years before the X-ray was invented, and if they had had that technology, they probably could have found the bullet and he would have survived it. But that's a long time to suffer with a bullet wound.
Yeah, it's
I just
terrible.
can't even imagine.
And the guy that shot him was just crazy, right?
Yeah,
He was-
in fact, it said he bought a gun when he went to purchase the firearm that he would ultimately assassinate him with. In some notes about him, it said that he wanted one that would look good in a museum. So a little bit of a twisted fella.
yeah, that's tragic.
Is the quote that I remember accurate, that Garfield was quoted as saying that he stepped down from the eldership to assume the role of President of the United States?
That's the way I've heard it.
Something of that nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that too. So he had a lot of good sayings. I've used some of his quotations. This one's an interesting one. I think the biggest talking point of this is his use of the word man. He's obviously not saying male or just talking about his gender. Although these days we could go off on that. Some people think that they can make themselves a gender of a man, but he's obviously assigning some moral characteristics to the notion of a man and doing that, distinguishing it from a woman. Otherwise, what he's saying doesn't make any sense. He's not just saying, I mean to make myself a human being
Right.
or of the male gender, but he's assigning some moral characteristics. And I'm assuming things like traditional attributes, courage, strength, fortitude, valor.
Right. So in 1870s, what did Garfield think was a man, right?
Right.
And there's probably a lot of those that we may think very similar things of today, right? So what does it take to make a man?
The very first thing I thought of when I saw this quote, whatever day we passed it around, Monday or Tuesday, was David's instructions to Solomon in 1 Kings 2. It says when David's time to die drew near, he commanded his son Solomon, I'm about to go the way of all the earth. Be strong and show yourself a man. And I think David defined some of these characteristics in 1 Kings when he says this, because after it says, be strong and show yourself a man, it says, keep the charge of the Lord your God, which I think is one thing. So keeping the charge of the Lord your God, keeping his mission, keeping his commands in your heart. The second thing is walking in his ways, keeping his statutes and his commandments, his rules and his testimonies. And he basically says all that's written in the law, that you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn. And that's, I have to think that when Garfield said this, he was thinking of that passage, because he says, if I mean to make myself a man, and if I succeed in that, I shall succeed in everything. And David is saying, if you do these things, if you keep the charge of the Lord, if you walk in his ways, if you keep his statutes, his commandments, his rules, it says you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn. I have to think there was some reference to that, and some of those characteristics are what Garfield is talking about. Sure. I thought of the question, how do I make myself a man when I read it? What are some of those characteristics? And I think they're probably very similar today as they were in the 1800s and they were in Christ's time and all the way back to King David.
Another passage that goes along with that in the New Testament is 1 Corinthians 16:13, where he tells the whole church, and this is interesting because the church would include women in this statement. I'm not sure if I'm accurate if he was thinking about the women when he said this, but he said, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. And I think just like you did with David's words, you put the peripheral words into that definition of men. Being a man includes being watchful, standing firm in the faith, being strong. These are attributes he's talking about when he's saying act like men. And I think also, if you know a little bit about the first epistle to the Corinthians, he's also saying, grow up, men as opposed to boys, and be mature, because in chapter 3, he starts talking about how, you should be on strong food now, but you're still needing milk because you're jealous and you're full of strife and fighting with one another. And these are things I think Garfield was aiming toward when he said this.
Came to my mind a lot of the attributes that Scripture talks about as it talks about leaders in the church, and some of those are specific qualifications that don't belong to necessarily all men. Right, the husband of one wife, having believing children. There are a few things of that nature. But most of those attributes are very descriptive of what a godly man is, right? Things like a man who is above reproach, a man who is sober-minded, begins to get into trying to paint a little bit of a picture, a man who's gentle, right? Some of those things are not necessarily the world's
stereotypical, yeah,
exactly stereotypical, right? I mean, when I think of real men, right? I at least in my early years grew up during the time of the Marlboro Man, right? That grizzled cowboy, smoking his cigarette or whatever. There were stereotypes of what men were to be, right? And a lot of them had to do with a physical appearance, but some of God's descriptions, they don't say that man couldn't be a godly man, but they don't paint necessarily that picture. A gentle man, a man who's not quarrelsome, not arguing all the time about things, a man who's not greedy. So, some of those things that that describe elders, and we talk about as qualifications of elders and deacons, but we also talk about that so many of those, any man should ascribe to, to having those attributes in their lives.
Yeah. I think it goes without saying that the ultimate man, according to biblical masculinity, would be Jesus, who is different from the stereotypical I hate that word, Marlboro man. He's has that gentleness, meekness, with the strength and courage in a combination the world doesn't really know.
Well, and I think sometimes in representations of Christ today, they feminize his personality, but we got to remember he was a carpenter's son. I mean, this guy grew up, up until he was 30 years old doing carpentry work. I mean, I picture him as being a manly man, but
Physically
he was also
strong as well as spiritual.
But he was also humble beyond means. He had great power, but also had great control. He was meek. He was merciful. He was honest. He was compassionate. I mean, how many times in the New Testament, in the gospel, do you see the term Christ saw them and had compassion? The feeding of the 5,000, the feeding of the 4,000, healing the widow's son. I mean, so many times it says that this great man who had the power to do anything he wanted, he truly was God and man. When he saw other people hurting, he had compassion for them, and he showed mercy to them. I think about his responses to his own apostles when they would act stupid, the grace and mercy he showed when he had all the reason in the world not to do that. I mean, he had all the power in the world.
When that whole idea that he went about doing good reminds me of the description of the judgment scene, that at the end of the day, when it was discussed of what the ones on the right and left were doing, it was what did you do for the least of these my brethren? And do just a man does good works. He looks out for others. He tries to help those who are down on their luck. And I think we paint this picture. We can think about real men that we know, that help others, that have integrity, that you just say that's a good man. And
we still kind of know what that means instinctively. Culture is definitely trying to wash that out and blend the line between men and women. And they're trying to tell us there isn't any difference but biology, and that can be changed. And that's a lie. You can't change the biology. And there is a difference between men and women, and it's okay that men and women are different. It certainly doesn't mean either one is inferior. They may have different roles, but they're different. Now, one of the things we do on this podcast is we overanalyze our quotes.
Just a little bit.
So
yeah,
I want to
sure.
do that for a moment just to turn this thing on its head and push back. I'm not going to say disagree with it, but push back on it just a little bit, because I tried to put the words from a woman's perspective and wondered, would a woman say this and we admire it? Now just think about this. I mean to make myself a woman, and if I succeed in that, I shall succeed in everything. Would we be okay with a woman saying, as long as I am a woman, that's all I need to be? I don't know that would garner the same respect
it just
as
doesn't.
a man in the 19th century anyway saying, all I need to be is a man, and being a man makes me complete.
Well, is it true that the use of the word woman is not necessarily used in this context ever in the same way that man is? Like, if I say, Drew, it's time for you to man up. If I ask Julie, it's time for you to woman up. That doesn't make it doesn't have a meaning, right?
Well, what did Shania Twain mean when she said, man, I feel like a woman?
Dun, 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 dun.
I mean,
Let's go,
that's-
girls.
I mean,
James Garfield
there
just
is
rolled
a-
over in his grave.
Yeah.
Sorry, Garfield, about what we did there.
I mean, that's what I'm getting at, is
Yeah.
what you're saying, Tim. At the same time, I'm trying to think of more recent examples where the term woman has been used as a noble term
Yeah.
that represents characteristics that has all these attributes packed into it. But I don't think we give that a fair shake.
Yeah.
But I
And
think it would
we
be
should.
more the more proper way would be to say, if you're looking at it from that perspective, is I mean to make myself a lady. Now that's different than saying a woman, because
It
with
is
a
different,
lady
but it's
comes
antiquated.
with a lady comes this thought of grace and this thought of kindness and pride. That's the closest thing to saying make myself a man I can think of.
I think,
I feel like we're wading into really deep
but
waters.
as we talked,
Yeah, I know.
as we talked about this quote, and we talked about who Garfield was, I think that it was almost, there was an understood, I mean to make myself a godly man. And
Sure.
if that was the case, then it makes sense that I mean to make myself a godly woman. We know what that means, right? But
Yeah,
it
when you
needs
put that-
a
that's true.
descriptor with it.
and
That
if
sounds
I
better.
succeed in that, I can succeed in anything.
Yeah.
Because being a godly man, being a godly woman, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, and it's harder in today's society than it probably was in the 1800s. But you're talking living the fruit of the Spirit, and that's a tough list of characteristics to live on a day-to-day basis. But that's what being godly looks like. That's what being godly is defined as.
Right. And if I was making any point, I guess the point that I was trying to make is that we say men and women are equal in terms of their value and their worth, and we look at Galatians 3:28 and 1 Peter 3:7. They're equal heirs of the grace of life, and we should point those things out. But then we don't have the language for it. And be a man. We don't say, well, be a woman. And being a woman is everything. So I guess we should talk up more the feminine qualities as we have in the past, the masculine qualities. And I think what we're doing is we're just trying to bring the masculine qualities down and diminish them and still not mention the value of the feminine qualities, when we need to leave the masculine qualities up and raise the feminine qualities up to where they ought to be. How's that? But I like what you said. If you put godly in front of it, it completes the quote. And it's understood, Garfield meant that.
And if he was saying, him being a believer, that if I succeed at being a man, I shall succeed in everything. He wouldn't make a statement of that nature if he didn't mean the kind of man that I need to be in God's sight, I believe.
Absolutely.
Right, based on... Yeah. I want to ask y'all something about going back to the idea of the picture of a man, right? Because I think about this sometimes. And the three of us, we love to laugh, and we love humor. We love, carrying on. It's a big part of our lives, right? It's a big part of our relationship.
It's one of the reasons we sat down to do this podcast.
That's right.
Is because we enjoyed that.
And I mentioned being sober-minded a while ago. And so I think sometimes, am I too much of a clown? I'm 57 years old. I'm getting older. How serious am I supposed to be? Because I just don't feel like maybe like my parents or grandparents, they were more serious than I am. And so is there a way, I guess when you're sober minded, maybe the whole idea is when it's time to be serious, you can be serious. Mm-hmm. I love enjoying a laugh and having fun, and I think that the three of us also have very serious conversations, right? We talk about serious subjects, and probably about as much as we do others. But what do you think?
Well,
what do you think that idea of sober-minded really
means?
There's
drunk laughter, there's drunk humor, and there's sober laughter and sober humor. Sobriety doesn't preclude humor. It's humor that's reasonable, that makes sense, that's respectful, that doesn't hurt others or belittle others. So I don't think it's wrong to have a good time. Sober-minded doesn't mean, it's kind
doesn't
of
mean stoic.
Right. It's a play on words borrowed from, the problem of drunkenness. We understand what it means to not be drunk, to be in your right mind, to be sober. So sober-minded means don't give yourself over to drunken thinking, to unreasonable rationalizations and such. I don't think it precludes humor.
Do you ever think, though, that I ought to be more serious? You ever have that thought that says...
I never have that thought. Sometimes I wish I could be a lot more relaxed and cutting up. And I really think, our parents and their parents, they would laugh and they would have a good time.
Yeah.
But I think as kids growing up, we see so much more of the stoic side of it that we don't realize it until we get to be adults and are around our parents. They're fairly normal people. They're not as mean as, I think back to like family reunions as a kid. I don't remember a lot about them, but we would go to them, and there'd be all the aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters, all these people there, and there was always laughter and there was always cutting up. So I think the generations before us, I think they dealt with some pretty serious things, from world wars to things like that. And maybe they had a little more sense of being stoic. But I also think when they were with the ones they loved, they knew how to laugh, how to have a good time. I mean, I think of my grandparents.
I certainly remember
jokes
laughter in my family and.
But maybe we're just more comfortable in who we are, and we don't worry so much about if other people see us laughing and cutting up and having a good time. I think Christ laughed. I think God has a good sense of humor.
Yeah. I have felt whether it was real or imagined. I felt expectations of not laughing too much. I felt pressure that, again, it could be imagined, but as a preacher, that I don't need to have too much of a good time. And I think sometimes we put that on ourselves.
Yeah. And there's the joyful life that comes with being a Christian, right? And there's happiness that goes along with that.
Yeah,
And
what's the alternative to to not laugh, to wear a long face everywhere you go, and to be somebody people don't want to be around,
Yeah.
to be negative and always serious? I don't think that's accomplishing the will of God.
Well, and if I think about our friendships and our friendships outside of this room with others over the last 20, 25 years, so many of our memories are filled with laughter and joy. And we've had some really serious things happen in our lives. We've had really serious discussions. We've all raised children. We've all had problems with our children. We've had problems with ourselves. And we have that time to be serious. But man, I don't want to live in a world where we can't cut up, and being a man doesn't include having a good sense of humor.
And is it 1 Corinthians? What chapter is it that says there's a time for this and a time for that?
Yeah,
Right?
it's Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, it is. It's Ecclesiastes.
You almost got the
will you
right section
please-
of the Bible.
Will you please clip that out? I believe that it's in Ecclesiastes.
Somewhere in
that it
there,
says,
somewhere in
Yes.
Second Opinions, it says.
Speaking of laughter, oh me, I gotta study
Time
my
to laugh
Bible.
and time to cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your time to cry, Tim. But
We're
Tim,
going to laugh.
circling back, just
Yeah.
be yourself, man.
All right,
You're perfect.
that I'll be.
I think we all
Perfect.
spend way too much time worrying about what everybody else is thinking about us. I live
I'm
in that
still
world
working.
all the time.
Yeah, I'm still working on trying to be comfortable in my own skin.
And I think that limits sometimes our ability to be effective as a man, because we're not always fully ourselves because we're worried about what other people think.
A real man is probably authentic, right? And that's something that's very
That's a
hard to
good
be.
one. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, we are authentically out of time, and we thank you all for listening in. This is episode 16.
I think so.
Right.
So we made it to 16, and we plan to go several more. And we have been working hard to try to get those social media accounts going. So look for us. We're going to be up on Twitter soon.
X.
So sorry. X. Send us an X on X.
But give us a 5-star review on X, right?
Yeah.
Do you do that? I don't
No,
even know.
no.
I don't know.
What I like about Twitter, what I'm hoping that X will do is give people an opportunity to chime in. And, maybe if we get some good X's, tweets, that we could read them on air.
And we would really
Once we get
hey,
that.
this was fun having somebody kind of submit a quote to us, because
Yeah. I'd like to
our
see more of that.
process for selecting them is pretty casual, and we would
No.
love to know what
it's
y'all think.
very rigorous. we go through a program of quotations. We've studied this.
A multi-phase vetting process.
We do at least try to source them and make sure they're really from the person
Yeah,
we say
do,
they're from.
Yeah. So, but we would love to have some submissions. Also, we're on Instagram, passages_podcast. Look us up there, follow us, and see what's going on. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast, follow, and like Jason said, leave us a rating or review. That would be very nice. And let people know about it. I think it's spreading by word of mouth more than anything, and we appreciate that so much. Most of all, just keep listening. We'll be back next week with another passage.